Well, good morning, everybody. How are you? Yeah, thanks for coming out. My name is Jeff Tucker. I am a lifelong Back to the Future fan. I saw it opening day, 1985. I was 13 years old, and it changed my life, virtually changed my life. It opened up so many things, because up until that point, I was just into Star Wars, and Star Wars at that point was dead. And Back to the Future came along at just the right time. I didn't know what the movie was about. I sat there, wide-eyed and not knowing the plot. Did he kill the dog? What's happened to the dog, right? And that moment where Marty looks over and sees George at the breakfast counter at Lou's Diner, and you realize this is what the movie is about, I was floored. And I went back that summer, and I saw the movie about 35 times on the big screen. I couldn't get enough of that film. I rode my bike 5 miles to Lakewood Mall to see it on the big screen. Then it moved eventually to Alondra 6 for $1.50, and I saw it there even more because it was closer. And when it finally arrived on home video, I begged my mother. I said, the video store, we had a Beta player. Remember Beta?
Oh, wow.
So the video store was going to get 25 copies of VHS and 1 copy of Beta for rental. It was Beta's last gasp. And I went to my mom and I said, you got to go to the video store in the morning and get it. Now, this is before Blockbuster. You only had the mom and pop video stores. And Back to the Future was not available for sale. It was a rental only. Only retailers could buy it. And it was very expensive. It was $59.95 to buy at the time. And minimum wage was about, $2.35. So it's a very expensive item because they just expected you to rent it. And I came home from school that day, and my mom says, it was already checked out, Jeff. They had 1 copy. That's why I bought it for you. So, yeah, I ripped that wrapper off, and then at the end of the movie, if anybody remembers this, it says to be continued. That was not in the theatrical release. I lost my mind. They're going to do another one? So I watched that tape I still have the tape actually, and it was still playing in the Alondra 6, so I would actually go and see it again. My mother would go, I spent a lot of money for you. I go, it's on the big screen, Mom. That was before the revival houses today where it's like, you don't even blink an eye if somebody says they're going to see Back to the Future at the Harkins or something because it's on the big screen. But I devoured Back to the Future, and my goal was to get in the movie. I wanted to be a part of the movie. How do you do that? I don't know. Other than my friends and I used to break into Universal Studios at 2 a.m. and we would get down to Hill Valley at about 3:30 a.m. and take pictures. So I actually wrote a book. It's called Your Friend in Time, How Back to the Future Changed My Life. It actually has a picture of me at the Cafe 80s just after the tram went by, and I was waving to the tram. So we'll be giving away some of these later for the Q&A. But Back to the Future means so much to me and so much to so many people. It's not a movie you just watch casually. It's a movie that becomes part of you, and you watch it again and again, and you find new things in it. And I saw on the big screen again, and you even see new things then. A movie you think you've seen 1,000,000 times, you suddenly see it in a new light. And that's why it's so good. So we've assembled this amazing panel of Back to the Future fans, experts, people who worked on it. So we're going to introduce them all, since now you know me. On the end there he is, the publisher of FilmThreat.com, host of the Film Threat podcast, the author of several books, most notably The Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide. He is also a filmmaker and a TV producer, having written and produced My Big Fat Independent Movie, appeared as a film expert on MSNBC, E! Channel, CNN, hosted his own show on FX, Stars, IFC, and you know him probably most from G4's Attack of the Show, Chris Gore.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. You didn't have to read that whole thing, but thank you. I am a fan. I would not profess to be an expert, but I am a fan of this film. I had a similar experience, although I remember at that time videos where they weren't sell-through, right?
Right, no, they were rental only.
They were rental only, and they had just crazy prices like $79.95,
yeah.
$109.95. So you have an amazing mother for her to have done that for you. And thank you. I'm really honored to be part of this panel. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I worked at Blockbuster. Oh, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I worked at Blockbuster when Ghost came out. And Ghost was $99.95. And the women who came in just didn't understand. Well, I can buy Jungle Book. Well, you can buy this one too. It's $100. I'm not paying that. And one lady tried to shoplift it. So anyways. All right, next on the panel.
Like you do.
With a career spanning 40 plus years, Don Full-Love has a special place in Hollywood and pop culture, from early voice work on television as the voice of Michael Jackson in the animated Jackson 5 show to a mind-boggling array of animated films, movies, and television appearances, including, get ready, Tough Turf, Basic Training, White Men Can't Jump, Mulan, Osmosis Jones, Spirit, Stallion of Cimarron, Curious George, Up, Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam, Partysaurus Rex, Hill Street Blues, The Fall Guy, yes, What's Happening Now, Martin, What's New, Scooby-Doo, and a recurring role as Reginald on American Dad, oh my God. But he's here today as a man you all know, the man who's going to clean up Hill Valley. And he's going to hover convert your old road car into a Skyway Flyer for only $39,995. The legendary Goldie Wilson himself, Don Full-Love.
Wow. I almost wanted to ask, where is that guy? That guy sounds pretty awesome. Hey, welcome everybody. Glad you're all here, and let's keep it going.
All right. Welcome. Next on the panel, Michael Clistorin has served as a production unit publicist on over 60 feature films to date, with credits including such diverse fare as Swamp Thing, Witness, Lethal Weapon 2, Back to the Future 2 and 3, The Last Boy Scout, The People vs. Larry Flint, Star Trek Nemesis, Office Space, Zombieland, Easy A, Max Rose, Cooties, and Mechanic Resurrection, among many others. His producing credits include Lethal Weapon 3 and the independent feature Noel, starring Susan Sarandon, Paul Walker, Penelope Cruz, and Alan Arkin. And in addition to his publicity chores on the features, Michael's contribution to the Back to the Future universe includes the writing of 2 episodes of the animated series, as well as a cameo appearance in the pre-show film of the theme park attraction. In 2015, Clistorin authored the international top-selling history of the Back to the Future franchise, Back to the Future, the ultimate visual history, the Bible. He followed that 2 years later with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the ultimate visual history, celebrating the 40th anniversary of the film's release. The man who says, "Good morning, Mr. Eastwood," Michael Clistorin.
Wow, I'm just tired listening to everything I did. But thank you all for being here. It's great to see everybody.
And last time I got in trouble for having a long bio.
Just wait, we're not there yet.
Oh, that's true.
All right. Joe Walser combined decades of motion picture art department experience with his passion for Back to the Future to become the world's leading authority on the DeLorean time machine. In 2013, he led Universal Studios' official restoration of the actual time machine vehicle used in all 3 Back to the Future movies, which is now on permanent display at the renowned Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. Walser has been directly involved in dozens of licensed Back to the Future products and projects, and has co-created the world's largest Back to the Future fan celebrations, including the 30th anniversary We're Going Back event in 2015. Joe Walser and partner Michael Clistorin are taking everyone Back to the Future again, starting in 2019 with another of their epic, immersive Back to the Future celebrations. Visit we'regoingbacktothefuture.com to join Back to the Future celebrations mailing list. Joe Walser is also currently working with director Sam Macaroni on an epic Back to the Future themed YouTube project to be released in the very near future. Joe Walser.
See, that wasn't so bad.
All right. Here we go. Sam Macaroni is a writer-director who rose to popularity on YouTube in 2012. His short films have been viewed over 200 million times. He went on to work for the Walt Disney Company, where he wrote and directed successful brand and entertainment campaigns for M&M's, Windex, AT&T, Canon Cameras, JCPenney, Hot Wheels, Sony Pictures, Pepsi, Disney, the NFL, and many more. Sam got his start in the entertainment industry by directing music videos for MCA Universal Records when he was 18. Around that time, he created and sold a television series to MTV. In 2005, he wrote and directed a feature film for National Lampoon. Currently, he is preparing to direct the feature film Guest House that he wrote with his writing partner Troy Duffy of Boondock Saints. Macaroni is also a writer on the upcoming Boondock Saints television project. His executive produced one-hour comedy special for Showtime starring Steve-O from Jackass. In addition, He directed the forthcoming Back to the Future documentary, DeLorean Warriors, which features Bob Gale, Michael Sheffield, Christopher Lloyd, Kevin Pike, and many more from the Back to the Future trilogy. Please welcome Sam Macaroni.
All right, that one was a little too long. I didn't know you'd be reading it. I have a similar story that all these guys have. You know, when I worked for MCA when I was 18, it was on the Universal lot, and I realized that I could probably jump a few fences and sneak down and see that car and see those sets. So I did a lot, and I stuck my dad down there. And then when 9/11 happened, they locked up. It's not easy to get down there anymore. So it was a good time.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen the documentary Out of Time, right? Steve's documentary. It's called Out of Time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not, because the other one's Back in
I thought you
Time.
were asking me if I'd seen it.
Yeah, you're in it. You're the star of it. But they do show that the DeLorean was left out in the elements just to rot, right? Anybody could go in. There's even a scene where somebody, like the keys are in it.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
pit clean, too. They
Yeah,
stole
we did.
everything.
One night I got a phone call, and it was from a friend of mine who was sneaking in currently on the Universal lot, and he was like, "Joe, the keys are in the car," and I was like, "Put them back. Just leave." Right? And he was like, "I can make it to the gate. I know it." You know? I was like, "And then what?" Right? You've got the time machine,
Yeah.
and you're going to jail.
You sound like Elliot Gould in Ocean's 11. This guy tasted oxygen. He got out of the casino with the chips. Yeah.
Yeah. So he started it up, and he didn't drive it though, but he wanted
Wow,
to.
the battery still worked, huh?
Yeah, it started. It ran.
That's impressive.
It ran a few years before the restoration. That's all.
Okay, all right. All right, well, we're going to run down. We got a bunch of questions for you guys here. We'll start it with Chris on the end there. What's your favorite part of Back to the Future?
Oh God. Well, yes, Goldie, of course. Yeah, because I'm sitting next to Don. Of course, I think it's really favorite part. It's so hard because I consider Back to the Future to be one of those rare films. It's a perfect film.
Yeah, I agree.
The first film. I mean, you could quibble about things in the second and third one, but the first one is a perfect movie, and I'm so grateful that there hasn't been a reboot. There hasn't been talk of, there's been sort of mutterings of sequel, but you cannot remake that film. It was lightning in a bottle. It was magic. And we live in an age where there are a lot of crappy remakes that are done. I mean, there was a total, you forget some of them, right? Like Predator and Total Recall, and they've rebooted everything. I can't imagine if they ever did like they did with an all-female Ghostbusters, if they did, well, let's do Back to the Future, but we'll swap the genders. It would make some of those interactions very weird. One scene in particular. But
well, yeah, it would be a father hitting on his daughter-to-be, right?
it would be uber creepy, yes. But I think that my favorite has to be Marty waking up his dad in that costume. And from the planet Vulcan, it was just a mishmash of just so many. Pop culture references weren't so big in films at the time. So that was just so fun to hear all those things referenced. And I think almost every interaction, with Marty and his father, I think is my favorite. And I feel like that's the thing. If you could have complaints about 2 and 3, it's him missing,
Sure, it's the lack of, yeah.
But that would have to be my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
Don?
Well, my favorite character in the film is Goldie Wilson. And I'm not biased, but he was great. No, I think the best part for me was being able to work with Eric Stoltz and Michael J. Fox and being able to see the differences in the Marty McFlys and how production was ramped up after Eric was fired. It was like a leisurely kind of thing. That little Goldie Wilson part took almost 4 weeks to shoot with Eric Stoltz. Michael J. Fox came on the scene. It took us 2 days.
Wow.
So everything was like expedited because so much production had been done. But the best part to me was being able to work with the both of them. That's pretty fun.
That's a rare thing to do a
it's
movie
totally
twice.
rare. Yeah.
Is there any
Now, if we could talk Universal and releasing that footage of me, on the DVD, it comes right to where I'm about to come on screen and then cut away. But I have a feeling a lot of that Eric Stoltz footage is probably going to be released at some point in the future.
Yeah, they have to think of a way to get us to buy it again. How many times have you bought the Back to the Future trilogy, right? I had it on beta, Laserdisc, VHS, singly, VHS box set, DVD, Blu-ray, second Blu-ray set, third Blu-ray set with flux capacitor packaging. I've bought it 8 times. How many more do I have to buy? Just get it in a pill form. And there's the movie. Michael, how about you? Now, you worked on 2 and 3, so you're probably going to be biased.
So if anyone's got quibbles about 2 and 3, let's go. I'll see you in the parking lot. How do you choose a favorite? I mean,
Pick one.
pick one.
Pick your favorite.
My favorite, I'm going to go Don's Townsman number 1 in Back to the Future Part 3. Back to the Future Part 3 was a wonderful experience because after Part 2, which we had shot pretty much in a sound stage or several sound stages at Universal Pictures, and long hours of shooting because of, number one, Michael was still doing Family Ties. That was his last season on Family Ties. And then we had the then cutting-edge special effects, which was 3 Martys, 2 Docs, 2 Jennifers, 2 Biffs, a Biff and a Griff. And those things took forever to set up, to go back and forth, put them all in makeup, shoot one side, take off the makeup, do it all. So we were there through the nights, in the mornings. When we got to Part 3, we went to Northern California. They had built Hill Valley from the ground up. And we were in a Western. We were in an old-timey fashion Western and people walking down the streets. And, you know, it was only natural for me to want to play a cowboy. And by the graces of Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, I got to do that. Jeff mentioned my little line. I'm taking it out as a one-man show. It's called Good Morning, Mr. Eastwood. And here's a little preview. Say good morning, Mr. Eastwood.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Joe, how about you?
How do you just pick one?
Just pick your favorite.
Just pick your favorite. For me, undoubtedly, it was the first moment you saw the time machine roll down off of Doc's truck, and that was just magical, and I was hooked. But you know, like we've all seen Back to the Future a million times, and what you said earlier and in your book, I had completely forgotten. You know, that there was one time you watched it where you didn't know that dog was going to be okay. You know, you literally thought he killed the dog.
Yeah.
And then every time after that, you're like, don't worry, the dog's going to be fine. It's all good. But that first time, you know, you were like, what is this movie about? You know, because it was scary, a little bit.
Well, sure. You don't know Doc's intentions.
Yeah.
There's also that moment where he makes Marty stand in front of the car heading straight for him.
Yeah, I mean, he could have took him out. You know,
Sure.
on screen.
What do you think happened to Stultz?
No idea.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
dog was fine.
Sam, how about you?
I don't know. I love everything about all 3 movies, and I think for me, it's all these little moments. Like when the time machine comes out, got me right there. And then just the little moments, like when George is eating his cereal and Marty saddles up next to him and he's trying to play it cool. Or that moment where Doc looks at Marty in the parking lot, looks down, see what he's wearing, looks back up at him, and goes back to doing his thing. There's just so many great actor moments in that movie. It's amazing.
Oh, I totally agree. After you've gotten over the story of Back to the Future, what you're talking about is what I do is like all the little details that you go, I never noticed that before, you know? And like I was saying, when I saw it on the big screen, I took my oldest to see the trilogy on the big screen at the Egyptian. And it was funny because you don't realize how, it's funny, like I'm now 47. I'm the exact age that the character is supposed to be wearing this costume. And I never thought I'd get to be this darn old, right? Or that I would turn to my kid and go, do we really need to stay for the third one? Because I'm really tired and I have to drive home after this. But there were moments in that one where, in the scene where Marty goes into his house and the guy chases him with the bat and he says, you tell the bank we're not going to sell. We won't be terrorized. There's a scene of Marty walking down the street where all of the houses have for sale signs. And you realize, oh, I didn't even pick up on that. Bifco is trying to run everybody out of town. It never even occurred to me that that was what was going on. I just thought, Marty's in danger. He's got to get out. What happened to his house, right? The other one is, and this is one I just discovered, and this is what makes me feel so great, because I don't know how you guys are. If I have a project to do, some people listen to music, I put Back to the Future on, because I don't have to look at the screen and know what's going on. I know exactly everything that's going to happen. And sometimes I'll glance up and, your brain is in a different mode. And there's the scene at the end of the first film where Marty gets out of bed and he goes, what a nightmare. And he goes into the living room. It's really hard to see. He's actually holding an envelope right before he falls on the ground, right? And he goes, did you hit your head? Well, the envelope never shows up again. But the envelope is his demo tape. And he has decided after this grand adventure to send it into the record company. And it never even occurred to me that that story thread had actually gotten fulfilled. Because everything in Back to the Future, like you were talking about, Chris, everything that is set up gets a payoff at the end. And that one was I never even noticed that in the film. Fantastic, right?
Yeah.
So I'd ask what character you most identify with, but we know what a couple of guys here are going to say. But Chris, how about you?
Well, Marty, of course. I identify with him and the sort of just the family dysfunction. I think we can all relate to family dysfunction, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I would say Marty for sure. Yeah.
Don?
What was the question?
Who's your favorite character?
I'm going through the entire cast list, and it's got to be Goldie Wilson.
All right.
Goldie Wilson. It's got to be that guy. He's all right.
Michael, how about you? Townsfolk number 1, right?
No, interestingly, my favorite character is townsman number 2.
Oh, nice. He's the guy that looks at Marty when he jumps into the manure, correct?
No, he's the one who offers him a cigar.
Oh,
and says,
okay.
Good morning, Mr. Eastwood. How are you, Mr. Eastwood? Here's a cigar, Mr. Eastwood. I just love that guy. Sorry, I don't know why.
Do you know that guy?
Yeah, of course. He was in the makeup department.
Hey, I got a question for you. We were talking earlier. There is a character in Back to the Future 2 that I don't know. I don't think he's in the credits, but he actually has a speaking line. When Marty Jr. is watching all of those programs, in the bottom corner, there's a bald-headed guy who goes, "Give me money. Give me big money." Who is that guy? Is that footage from just some random show, or is that film for the movie?
Random show.
Is it really?
Yeah, we didn't have time to. Go into the Cafe 80s and look at all those monitors.
Yeah.
That's all.
The best one is they're
light
showing
and-
Taxi.
Right.
Yeah.
But we didn't have time to do other little mini things for a corner of a screen for that. So yeah, I'm
Lost to time.
afraid so.
Because you'd think you'd see that guy signing autographs. Oh, I'm the guy on the TV that says, "Give me big money. $20, please."
Yeah, we still got the Michael Jackson impersonator going out, so he's filling the void.
Yeah, isn't it funny that they're going to launch a Michael Jackson hologram tour, and Back to the Future 2 did it first, right?
Imagine that.
Joe, how about you?
Well, everybody loves Marty. I love Marty too, but I've always been more of a Doc Brown kind of guy, always creating, and I'm like the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain, mostly. So, Doc.
Nice. Sam, how about you?
I wish I was a Doc, but I'm a Marty. I wish I could make cool stuff, but yeah, I'm a Marty.
All right. Nothing wrong with that.
I get drug into cool stuff.
The initial time I saw the movie, Marty's the main character, so you identify with Marty. I idolized Marty McFly, but I was self-aware enough to know that I wasn't cool enough to be Marty. Marty was in a band. Marty had a girlfriend. These are things I was never going to obtain in high school. And I remember going to school. I had the Back to the Future novelization by George Geip, and I carried it around. I still have it. It's all tattered. But one time I did go to school in the two-tone jacket and the life preserver, right? This was about early '86. And I remember a girl looked at me, and she looked at the book, and she looked back at me, and she said, "You effing nerd." And I went, "Yeah, what do you want? I like the movies." So I grew up idolizing Marty, and it wasn't until, and I talk about it in my book, because my book was very cathartic, because you have this thing where you say, why do I like this movie so much? What is it about this movie that does it for me? And I realized late, I'm actually George McFly. I'm this loser guy who needed help getting a girl and ultimately wrote a book. And I'm like, oh my God, it's my story. I just have to keep from getting shot and I'll be fine. And then later in, not later in life, but in 1987, my father, who I didn't really know, was killed. He was shot in a robbery. And so that scene in Back to the Future 2 on the rooftop when Biff has the gun and he says, "I'm going to get 2 McFlys with 1 gun," because you've seen George's tombstone, man. I lost it at the theater. I'm sitting there crying like, oh my God, my dad and George, and what's going to happen? And I knew that Crispin wasn't in the movie, so they're not going to bring him back. You know, they had Jeffrey Weissman, who did a great job, and he's a great guy. But there was a lot of moments in Back to the Future where it transcended the screen for me, you know, especially when, and my kids can attest to this, when you write a book, you get the proof in the mail. And I've done it like, 6 times now, where, hey Marty, hey George, Mr. McFly, your book's here. I think it's your new book. This package just arrived. And I have that same moment. And if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything, right? So I don't know about you guys, but I go about my daily life using Back to the Future dialogue. And I have certain trigger words that will just launch me. And my kids are like, how can you do this? You know? Well, what's the main one I do all the time? Whenever we go somewhere. This all used to be farmland as far as the eye could see. Old man Peabody. Yeah, see? So it's a family thing. And what's that? Yeah, you don't even know the movie. You're doing it from me, right? That's love, folks. That's love, folks.
You should see the movie. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good film. Hey, we have a special message we want to play. You ready for that?
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if you guys know, but everybody probably does. Billy Zane's first movie role was Back to the Future. He was one of Biff's, thug characters. So I asked him if he could be on this panel, and he's in Austin today doing a con out there. But I barged his house at 11 o'clock the other night and said, let me film this on an iPhone. So I have a tiny little interview with him. And I don't know, I haven't seen him do much Back to the Future speaking before. So I got some cool stories out of him. Let's see. Let's go full view.
You know Billy Zane from Titanic and The Phantom.
Yes.
Slam Evil.
Hi, I'm Sam Macaroni, and I'm here with Billy Zane, who's leaving in the morning.
How do we turn that
But I had to get this interview for Comic-Con, so thank you.
Out of time.
Yeah.
Anytime. Sorry.
Anytime. All right, question. Where were you when you first found out that you booked this movie? What were you doing in life?
I was living in Beechwood Canyon. I had just moved to Hollywood. I was here virtually 2.5 weeks, and had auditioned for the Biff role, which I guess they auditioned Casey and JJ as well. Matt, Skinhead in 3D. We all read for Biff because there weren't really lines to read for, the 3, goons other than like shit or get him. So we read, Hello McFly, thinking that we had a shot at Biff, which was kind of funny, but it had already been cast.
That would have been an awesome Biff, so...
No,
I'm just saying.
Tom Wilson did not touch that.
All right,
He is
here's Biff.
genius.
All right, is there anything funny you remember from your shooting days?
Everything. We were like kids in a candy store. We were Backlot Universal was our playground, and every scene we weren't shooting, and every lunch break, we got to run amok and take our breakfast burrito or whatever was on the truck to
The free food? Because
to
you were a
free
young
food.
actor?
Sure, free food.
That's awesome.
We went to let's go to the Red Sea, let's go eat, let's go have lunch at Amity Island. let's dodge the flood at the Mexican villages. So these are all highlights of the Universal backlot tour, which we were able to just traverse and run amok and wreak havoc on the tour buses. Michael liked to pretend to play dead on New York Street, so the bus would have to stop and see if he's okay. And while they did, we jumped aboard and said, "Stand and deliver," and try to relieve them of their Universal swag.
That's awesome. Okay, did they actually dump shit on you?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. It was 30 years ago.
It was 30 years ago, and it supposedly was mud, but it smelled like shit. Right there.
Did you do anything with Stoltz?
Everything. We shot all of our stuff with Eric, and then got another pass with Michael J. And Eric was wonderful. It was just just a different take. Valid and sublime and funny. He's very wry, and he's very supremely talented. He's just his humor was more subtle. His takes more, I don't know. He's a great leading man. He had just a real worldly panache and quality about him that made you understand why he was cast. It was like Marty is kind of crafty on the page, and he had I think there was a post Ferris Bueller kind of debonair quality about him, which made sense.
Yeah.
But when you're bouncing off of, Chris Lloyd, who was bouncing and running at 220%, Michael J is kind of more amplified. Delivery probably was a better match.
Speaking of match, you told me once
I know what you did.
your character had a name, and I don't know if you people know this.
It's in the credits.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't look at credits, and that's sad. What was your name?
Match.
You were Matt. No.
Billy Zane, everybody.
Yeah.
Wow, that's what he was, Matt.
All right, let's do a little message for him. I'm gonna be like, the panel went good. Thanks, Billy Zane. And then when I turn around, I'll be like, thanks, Billy Zane, because he likes that stuff.
Or say thanks, Match.
Yeah. The panel went good. Thanks, Billy Zane. Thanks, Billy Zane.
Slam evil.
Woohoo! All right. It's gonna make him very happy.
All right, Nate, that was awesome. Thanks for doing that.
Jeff, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
As the fan on the panel, you're a super fan and expert, and all the experts. I've heard of this Eric Stoltz version forever. They practically filmed the entire movie. Yeah. I heard his
6 weeks.
Yeah, I've heard his take on it was he saw it as more of a tragedy, that it was a much not necessarily darker, but a much more serious film. Would any of you care to comment on the Eric Stoltz version, if you'd like to see it, if there's some way that it could be assembled? I mean, it's, in a way, it's kind of a lost film. I would just like to know what their thinking was when they looked at it and said, we've shot almost the entire movie and we have to start over with a different actor. That's extremely rare. It doesn't happen very often in Hollywood. Any comments on that version? Because it's so fascinating. Any little crumb of information about it, I eat it up. So, and I'm sure others as well feel the same way.
You guys want to? I'll take it at the end there.
Yeah.
From the fan perspective.
Have you read my book?
Well, see, there you go. I have not, but now see, that's where I made my mistake.
They shot, as we said, about half the movie, and Artie Schmidt, the editor, was putting all the stuff together, and Bob Zemeckis would go in and take a look during lunch, and they put together a sizable amount of the film, and as is reported, and this was Artie told me the story, and Bob Z and Bob Gale, he came in one day and said, Bob Zemeckis came in and said, well, how is it? What do you think? And Artie said, well, got good news and bad news. Good news is everybody is Chris Lloyd is great. Leah Thompson is great. Crispin, for all the trouble that you have with him, is great. But you've got a big hole where Marty is. And Eric's process, and I always preface when talking about Eric by saying he was a terrific actor, director, very talented. He did see this movie as sort of real life. He played Marty as if he really was going through this, to the point of where you had to call him Marty when he was on set. He would not respond to Eric. If a light was falling and you said, "Hey, Eric, watch out," he'd have gotten hit because he wasn't going to move. For my tastes, I would not want to see the footage. For many, it's a curiosity. It doesn't represent the best of Eric Stoltz. It doesn't represent what the filmmakers wanted to do, which is why they took the unprecedented step of reshooting those movies. And you're right. It's unbelievable that Universal allowed them to do it. So, no, I'm not show me the Eric Stoltz guy.
I am.
You would be.
Well, no, I mean, I look at it. I mean, of course, it's not Back to the Future, but it's a part of the process of the journey. And to see what Back to the Future might have been in regard to what it wound up being, I mean, it kind of completes the arc for me. I mean, I think you're right. I think Eric Stoltz is a very compelling actor. He's a method actor. He's a dramatic actor. Michael J. Fox is physical comedy. Marty McFly, like you said, Eric played that role as a real person. Michael J. Fox got it. He understood the type of film it was, the genre, which obviously made it that we're all here 33 years later. But I would love to see it simply by virtue of the fact that I don't remember much of Eric Stoltz. I mean, for 4 weeks I was on the set with him, and I saw him shooting their scenes and stuff. He did his stuff with me, but I barely remember. I remember every single moment with Michael J. Fox on the set. That's my take on it.
It's an alternate timeline. We have to see it.
Yeah.
Joey, thoughts?
That whole space-time continuum thing.
It's a parallel of a parallel.
Not about that.
Yeah, I'll just say as a fan, it's an oddity. If it was an extra on a disc, I might watch it. I'm not really interested in seeing it. It doesn't interest me at all. And I'll give you an example. Anytime a filmmaker has tried to go back and rework a film or fix a film, it rarely works. I mean, the Star Wars special editions are terrible, The only one that comes to mind is the Donner cut of Superman 2, where that's pretty darn good, right? Yeah. But the movie is a perfect thing in the way it is. And I went to the We're Going Back event where they had both editors there who swore there is no Stoltz footage in the film. But then I watched a YouTube video and it was very compelling evidence of the film itself. And they used Tom Wilson as the example because Tom, like you, Don, filmed the movie twice. And the first time Tom films the movie, you could see it on screen. He looks very fresh-faced and ready to go. And by the time he has scenes with Michael, he has bags under his eyes. And he looks he's aged quite a bit in that time frame. And in the scene where, in the You're My Density scene, where Marty attacks Biff and knocks them all down, there's one shot where Biff, I know, but this is just hearsay. Tom Wilson looks very fresh-faced when a fist hits him in the chest. And that's the guy's evidence that fist is Eric Stoltz. That we've seen the fist. Yeah, it's great footage. It's like the Zapruder film, Kennedy is flying here. George McFly is here. The bullet comes in here. And it is Eric Stoltz standing on the grassy knoll. So, Michael, you have a thought? You're dying?
That was all Michael Fox.
You're wrong.
It's not me. It's the video.
I was there.
The video is wrong. I spoke with both those editors, and it was specifically Harry Karamitis who did those shots. He swore on his life. He said, there is one shot of Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future, the final version. but it wasn't that shot.
It's not that shot.
It's not that
But
shot.
they've never said which shot it is.
Enlighten us. Which shot? Oh, you don't know?
Yeah, which
I
shot?
don't know. No,
Which shot?
he would not tell me.
What about?
I have my suspicion.
You've done more research than anybody on the planet
I
on this
have
film.
my suspicion that when you see a couple of different shots of Marty with George coming to George in the middle of the night, dressed as the spaceman from the planet Vulcan, that there might be a Stoltz in that costume.
Oh, see, now I got to go back to the Blu-ray again. What about the shot when Doc at the mall, the first film, when Doc throws his gun? There's a shadow that moves behind him. And Bruce Gordon's article from Starlog, if anybody remembers the other Marty McFly, it was a huge, legendary article in Starlog. He's saying that's Marty falling down the hill at the end of the film.
He's got a little too much time on his hands. Honest. Sorry, I didn't go into, I think, chapter 3 with shadows, but I didn't get that. So I'm sorry.
You know what I think is amazing is that a lot of these locations still exist, and you can actually go stand in that movie. Have you guys been to Marty's house in Arleta? How many people have been to the locations? What?
When's
No
the party?
way.
When's the barbecue?
The lady is your friend? The little old lady, yeah?
Is it the
She's
neighbor
cool.
or the actual people in the house? Wow. Yeah, what's funny is, like, you know, the fans drive by all the time, and I went up there, I've heard the legend, and they don't like the fans very much because that's just their house. And so the husband, he's telling me that 200 cars, DeLoreans drive by, you know, every week. And I asked him, I said, do you, you know, why'd you let them do this? Because they're the original owners. And he said, in 85, it's a couple grand. It's like, whatever.
It's the original owners?
Yeah,
I was going to say, because, you know, realtors have to tell you if a murder happened in the house.
They have to tell you if a blockbuster happened at the house.
Oh, by the way, before we signed the papers, this was Marty McFly's house. Sign here.
Yeah. Well, then they
What did he
said
just
for part
say?
2, they came back with, like, I don't know, it was like 20 grand, and I don't want to misquote, but he told me it was a bigger number because it was part 2, and they're like, all right, cool. But the internet wasn't around yet, so nobody had their address. And, you know, flash forward now, there's block party. You threw a block party on those poor people's block.
Boy,
didn't you?
what a party that was.
Oh my God! Like, if you have a DeLorean, you have to drive by our house. Like, they're like, we're cursed. And I was like, well, get out and let somebody that cares move in there because it's a pretty big deal.
I wonder if they could sell that house for way over its value, though.
Yeah.
I know everybody wants to buy it and turn it into a Back to the Future museum,
Museum.
right?
Oh my God! I'm going there like
I
2
would
days
buy it.
to film something. It's a plague.
They mind the DeLoreans a lot less than they do the people that take their flowers and stuff like that, you know?
Well, that's not cool.
I agree.
They should
All right.
just plant Marty flowers out there, you know, for $1.
Well, that's like the Breaking Bad house. Everybody throws a pizza on the roof, so it could be worse.
Really,
True
it's filled
story.
with kids.
Yeah, poor guy. He actually went out one day with like Little Caesars and charged them $20 if you want to throw a pizza on the roof, and everybody throws a pizza on the roof. Hey, any questions for the panel? Yes. There's no microphone, so just talk really loud, and I'll repeat. Yes, sir. Do you know, Michael,
Question.
why there's no Halloween decorations in Hill Valley?
Oh, that's a darn good question.
Damn good question.
The Hill Valley Preservation Society doesn't allow any decorations. Since
Let's
most of
call
the-
Bob Gale.
And that's a darn good answer.
Most of the buildings are registered as historical. You know, the mayor is trying to replace the clock. The last thing you want to do is put skeletons on it. So, but that's a good question.
But well, Jeff, don't you think like back in '85, Halloween decorations
Not a
was
big deal.
Not that big a deal.
No,
like,
not a big
now
deal.
they have Halloween decorations for sale in August at Costco. You know, it's just
Here, we have a prize for you: a signed poster of Marty and Doc riding a bicycle.
Yep.
From
That's
one of
a
the.
darn good question.
Good
and Joe
question.
here,
Good question.
He's,
Good question.
Yeah. He's texting Bob Gale and trying to get an answer, and I'm going to double text
But,
him
you know,
right now and see if we can.
Chris is really close to the truth. I work at Not Scary Farm, so I've watched Halloween explode because it used to be one night. Halloween was about 4:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and you better get your butt home with your candy. And now the Mickey's Halloween treat started in August. So Halloween's a lot bigger deal because corporations figured out you can make a lot of money off Halloween. Yeah. Any other? Yes, right here, sir. Yes. Absolutely, they're agreeing. Yes. It's James. Slacker. James Tolkien, correct? Is that his name?
Yes.
I met James Tolkien on one of my Back to the Future when we figured out how to sneak in during the day, and I actually met him. And you have that long moment where like, will you call me a slacker? And he went, slacker. And I went, yes. Yes, sir. Yeah, the Beastie Boys hat. Elizabeth Shue. Hey, slacker guy, come get a poster. Nice job. Elizabeth Shue. You talking about Elizabeth Shue replacing Claudia Wells as Jennifer Parker. That was out of necessity, right?
It was.
Thank you.
It was. Claudia's mom was very, very ill at the time we were starting part 2. And she chose to devote her time to take care of her mom.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that we didn't want her. It was that we had to have another Jennifer.
What's really cool is that Back to the Future has 2 Georges and 2 Jennifer Parkers. Yeah. So we actually get one of each that appear at the fan events. So Jeffrey Weissman, who was George, appears, and Claudia Wells, who was Jennifer, appears. But Elizabeth Shue and Crispin Glover don't really show up at a lot of events.
Crispin does his own. Crispin is his own event.
He would scare me if I met him. Crispin Glover scares me.
He will. From what I understand, I've not been to any of them. If you give him a Back to the Future item to sign, he actually signs it with the inscription, "I never asked Bob Gale for the same salary as Michael on part 2."
Now that is heavy.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. In the back there, yes. How many DeLoreans were used in the filming, Joe?
In the first film, there were 3, but in all of the films, there were 7, right? So it was the A, B, and C car for part 1, and then they built 2 off-roaders for part 3, and the Oxnard car, right? That's 6. And then there was the fiberglass car, but that doesn't really count.
There was one that was on a crane.
It's not real. That's not a real car.
There was the gimbal one for the interior shots, which isn't really a
That's the
car.
C car.
That was the C
Oh, that's the C car?
Yeah, but I mean that was a real car.
Yeah.
They just cut it in half.
Where'd the fiberglass one end up? Does somebody have that?
No, they had it destroyed. Yeah, shredded into bits. Yeah, it sucks.
You want to give that guy
And then
a patch?
yeah, sure. Here, you get a patch.
Come on down.
Come get a
You
prize.
got
That's a good
time
question.
patch. That's a
A
good
DeLorean Time Machine Restoration Team patch of the flux capacitor.
You
Great
have
outfit.
something now to put on your McFly life preserver.
fantastic outfit.
You get a patch and a page.
Nice.
Wow.
In the back there. Yes, sir. Speak loud. The opening shot,
With the
Michael, do you
clocks?
know, with all the clocks? I know that I read somewhere it was very complicated and they did it more than once.
They did it twice, actually, but it took about 6 hours to reset everything because everything had to be so precise. So there was a whole wall of the clocks, but there was an area behind that wall where the crew set up and made the adjustments. They went through it once, and then it literally took another couple of hours to put everything back. So it was shot twice, and that was it. That was a wrap.
Where's
Nice.
the mistakes in that movie? Like,
You just gotta get a prize.
yeah, he gets a prize.
Oh.
I always thought.
Here, we got a T-shirt for you. Come up.
I always
It's from
thought
the
there-
30th
yeah.
anniversary. It's the facts as a church.
I thought it was a mistake when Marty gets blown back, into the speaker. I always saw the cord, but then I realized that was the guitar chord. So I was like, oh, can't find a
Where are the
mistake.
mistakes?
Yeah, like,
Oh, you know what?
Where's the list of
I
mistakes?
got one mistake.
One mistake.
It's not really a mistake. It's just like it's a perfect script except one line, and it's just kind of an unnecessary line to get. They're trying to get somewhere. Could have done it better. It's when this is just my opinion, so don't
The pitchforks are coming out, Joe.
don't come at me. It's when Marty's showing Doc in Doc's house the flyer, and he's talking about his girlfriend. He's like, I got a girlfriend, and Doc's like, is she beautiful?
Is she pretty?
Yeah, is she pretty?
Doc,
And
she's
I'm like,
beautiful. Like, why does Doc care?
Yeah, like,
Yeah, that's a little weird.
randomly. Right?
Yeah.
Just like, out of the blue, like,
I'll only help you get back if she's good looking, Marty.
there's all
If she's a 2, you're staying here.
right. Sorry.
Doc has lived alone for a very long time.
Here, here's Back to the Future does not have a lot of mistakes. The ones that stick out to me, when he pays his coffee at Lou's Diner, he pays with modern day money. But maybe Lou didn't notice that, so that's a gimme.
I'll always check my pennies.
Yeah. The biggest, well, they would have been wheat pennies, so they would look different. But here's the biggest mistake, and Bob Gale has acknowledged it because you don't have a movie without it. If Marty and Jennifer get into the DeLorean to go to 2015, they can't meet themselves because they got into the DeLorean and left.
Oh.
You can't meet yourself in the future because you actually left. So that doesn't really hold water, but that's the whole thinking fourth dimensionally.
But they came back.
There's no such thing as time travel. That means everything is possible.
Yes. There's that line in Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me. Just enjoy the movie. I'm like, yes, I like that. Right here, yes, sir. Who was there was the actual dog used in the filming? That was from Animals of the Stars or something, right?
Yeah, it was a professional organization who trained animals to be in films. So, I mean, it wasn't like some guy on the street who said, I got this dog.
Yeah.
Can he be in the movie?
That was, who was the head of Universal? Sheinberg?
Sid Sheinberg.
Sid Sheinberg's idea because Doc originally had a chimp. Yeah. And he said,
Mustang.
people like dogs. They don't like chimps. Take the chimp out.
That's right. A lot of people criticize Mr. Sheinberg for
He made good contributions, I thought.
a few things, but he
Yeah.
did. He made some really important contributions,
Yeah.
including turning Einstein into a dog. But the most important contribution is that he let them refilm the movie.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
his
Has
decision.
Anybody read the original script? Doc and Marty bootleg movies, and the time machine works on Coca-Cola. Like, they really fixed the movie. And the best thing that Sheinberg did was cut the budget and say, you can't have that sequence in the desert with the atom bomb. You have to film it here. And that's what makes the movie so good, because Hill Valley becomes a character in the film, just like the same town in Gremlins or It's a Wonderful Life, Yes, sir. Yes. There was sponsorship.
Not by Western Union.
Are you sure? Because the Western Union had little miniature calendars to do the movie tie-in.
That was a promotional deal.
Yeah, but not.
Western Union didn't give us.
It wasn't like
any
California
money.
Raisins.
Oh no! Don't start on the raisins.
In the first film, California Raisins gave him a check. And the only appearance of the film of Raisins is Red the Bum is sleeping on a Raisins bench. And so the Raisins said, we'd like the money.
No, well, okay. I gotta. Sorry, I gotta.
We have Michael here to keep me in check.
chime in on
I'm giving
that.
you the fan version.
There is a thing called product placement, which is where you take a product and the company that makes that product will give the film money to be in the film, and then they can promote it.
I have a
And
copy of my book. Thanks.
the person who was doing product placement was, by Bob Gale's admission, kind of a skeevy guy who was making some really strange deals to get money and probably took a cut out of it that he shouldn't have.
The best one was
The classic story is he came to Bob Gale and said, look, if you turn the time machine into a Mustang, then Ford is going to give us $75,000, which would have paid for a day or two of shooting. And Bob Gale looked at him, and we have children, so I'm going to have to bleep myself, and just said, Doc Brown does not drive a bleeping Mustang. And he was dismissed. But the guy also made a deal for $50,000 with California raisins. And then he went to Bob and said, I made this deal. We've got to put California raisins in the movie. And he said, well, doing what? Should Lorraine be eating raisins? Or is that? He said, no, just like put a bowl of raisins at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And they took a bowl of raisins and they looked at it, and it looked like a bowl of dirt. And it didn't say, raisins, kids. So the only thing they could do was to put that California raisins ad on the bus bench. And Bob Gale also insisted that the California Raisin Board be given a refund of their money.
Oh, okay, there you go. So he gave it back.
Yes.
The good news, though, is that the California Raisins promotion provided the only collectible that you could get from the first film, which was the mail-away Stomper truck, which I got and was like, oh my God, it's the only, because as a collector, it was the only thing to collect. So, yes, right there. Hello. There's a Japanese wrestler. Now I'm going to YouTube it. No, that sounds great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. How about Doc Brown in the back there? I didn't hear what he said. I didn't hear the last part. Why doesn't he what? Oh.
Then what would we have done for the next hour and a half?
Yeah. Well, Bob Gale has gone on record as saying they didn't make the movie with any sequel in mind. It was just a fun way to end the movie. Because he said, if I was going to write a sequel, I wouldn't have put Jennifer in the car. She ends up drugged the whole movie, right? Yeah. So that's one of those things where, and I know, oh my God, horror is in modern day. They set out to make a really good singular film. They didn't care about sequels or cinematic freaking universes or, hey, stick after the credits and you'll see the trailer for the movie that comes out 3 years from now. They just made it a really good movie. And I think that art is lost today because I go to almost every movie. I'm a junkie. And so many movies are like, well, we'll explain it in the sequel. And then the movie bombs. And there's no sequel. I don't know how Arnold got back in Terminator Genesis to go to Sarah Connor. And guess what? They're never going to tell me because they're rebooting the damn thing. So, sorry, I'm very passionate about it. Yes, sir, right here. You guys want to?
It was cool.
Well, I found out what a Easter egg is it called?
Yeah.
I found out I was an Easter egg.
You were, yes.
Yeah.
You're in the film.
That was cool. Somebody said, yeah, man, did they pay you? I was like, no. You can sue them. No.
You get paid with exposure. Chris, any thoughts?
I thought it was great. I mean, that movie's a lot of fun, but I prefer the book. The Ready Player One book is just the world building at the beginning and how society and school is different and the economic divide that explains the stacks. So I felt like it might have been a better limited series, but all the references were, the best part.
My favorite part was talking to Joe, and he goes, they didn't even come out and scan the car. They just drew it out in the computer by itself.
It turns out they did actually.
Oh, they did?
Send somebody to the Peterson.
And well, how come, and I'm a big nerd, how come the hood opens the wrong way when the car
that
flips up in the hood? Because, the hood opens a certain way. It's backwards.
Wait. The hood opens like that. In Ready Player One, it opened the other way?
No, it opens backwards to put the luggage in. But in the film, it opens regular like any other car, which the DeLorean is not.
It is not a regular car.
Wow, I didn't realize
That's a good question. Give him a prize, Joe.
You get a prize. I agree with you, Chris, about the book. Give me my Max Headroom.
Yeah, that was a great part. Right here.
So possible. Sure. Yeah, sure. It's a big parking lot.
They don't really know because it only goes up to 85 on the speedometer.
Yeah, it's a special speedometer.
There's a mistake.
Yeah. Okay.
Right there, yes, ma'am, dressed as Marty McFly. Do you know that, Michael? When Michael plays Johnny Be Good, was there any other selections?
There were, but I think they were talking about Elvis, a couple of Elvis songs, but ultimately they hit on, that's the most famous, essentially, example of rock in the 50s. And
Good question. Come get a prize. That was performed by Jack Mack and the Heart Attack. Am I correct in that, Michael? Do you know? The singer of that song of Johnny Be Good. It's not Michael.
no, but it's not Jack Mack and the Heart Attack.
No,
right?
somebody said it was a bar band. Here,
Was it
thank you.
Billy and
Nice
the
work. No? Does anybody know?
Oh, do I have to go?
It wasn't Billy Bear and the Beaters. In the back there,
It's
yes.
your own book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his riff that wakes George up, yes. Yeah, I don't think so. Eddie Van Halen, Michael, any idea?
What about him?
The guitar riff that wakes George up?
Yeah.
Was that the only instance of?
Yes.
Only instance. But a fun fact, in the movie The Wildlife, which is not available on DVD, very hard to get, Chris Penn is thrown out of a window to that guitar riff, and it continues into the whole song. And I remember watching going, I know that. I know that music. So, yes. Yes, sir, in the hat there. How come Doc didn't die when 1.21 gigawatts went through his hands? Any idea?
Because it went through his hands. It went through. It didn't go in.
Because you've known from part 3, when he drives the train, Doc is a conductor.
I'll give you a pass.
No, he doesn't get a prize. Take something away from him.
Come get a prize, sir. That's a great question.
Also, what the heck's a gigawatt? Like,
Yes, sir. Guy that looks like my brother.
Give him a prize.
Nice work, man.
All of us have seen this movie countless times to the point where we remember everything. Well, for all of you, what was that one moment when you first thought that book for Mr. Mayor, when you read the script, what led you to go, this is what I wanted to do?
The check.
Yeah, we'll go down the line. That's how we'll wrap up here. Chris, nice work. Here's a book. Thank you.
Oh, I don't know. This is what I want to do, meaning come to conventions and be a nerd and connect with the nerd tribe.
Now, what hooked you on this being one of your favorite movies?
Oh.
What really hooked you into this world?
I don't know. I think really thematically the message, the end, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. I mean, it really comes down. I mean, there's so many funny scenes and so many great scenes, but that thread and that theme and ending on that is such an important message for everyone. I think really it was like, this is a classic, on the level of It's a Wonderful Life and whatnot. So.
Absolutely. Don?
All kidding aside, it was a check, but I think for me it was the fact that Steven Spielberg was involved, that I knew it was going to be something. I didn't know it was going to be this, but I knew I had no idea who Zemeckis or Gale was. But Spielberg was there, and I'm like, okay, I'm working with Steven Spielberg. This might be okay. And that's kind of what let me know it would be okay.
Nice.
Not this okay, but
Michael?
I think this harkens back to how we started in terms of choosing a particular moment or something. But for me, sitting in a theater watching the first Back to the Future, it was the perfect movie. Story-wise, casting-wise, the way it was shot, everything. It was the perfect storm of a movie, and you left feeling energized and enthusiastic, and having been entertained. And I actually visited the set of the first Back to the Future, even though I didn't work on it. And as I was walking around watching everything, I said, "Boy, I really want to work on a movie like this one day." And little did I realize that 4 years later, I would be standing in the same place, but I would be surrounded with Marty and Doc and the whole family. So, what a treasure.
Joe?
Well, I'm known for kind of being a perfectionist, and the script in film school was one of the scripts we studied, and it's one of the few perfect scripts, maybe the most. You know what I mean? It's like literally,
absolutely.
There's except for the whole "is she pretty" thing, it's perfect, right? That and the design of the car caught me immediately because it wasn't just a futuristic car with a bunch of crap kludged on it. It just looked. Everything was, designed specifically to look, dangerous and homemade but functional, and so that's what hooked me. I wanted to build the car, and then, I got to rebuild the real car, so that was kind of cool.
All right, Sam?
I always thought my dad was the coolest guy in the world, and never thought about the concept that he was just a dude once too, and really never thought about the concept of being able to hang out with him as just a friend. So that blew my mind. And I was 10 when it came out, and I was sick. I had a really bad flu, and my parents had flown us to Florida for vacation, and I was a miserable wretch, and sitting around in the hotel room, and I didn't want to do anything. And they were like, "Let's just take him to a movie." And I saw that movie, and I came out of that thing just screaming and jumping up and down. It did exactly what a movie's supposed to do. It took me away from all my problems, and I wasn't even sick. I came out, and then about 2 hours later, it wore down, and they're like, "Let's take him again." So yeah, it's just
You have to watch it every
movie.
4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, hey, Jeff. I got a couple of questions since I have some aficionados here. First thing is, I've always been told Back to the Future 2. Goldie Wilson Goldie Wilson's grandson was not supposed to be in Back to the Future 2. And I was told that scene was supposed to have been for Earl Scheib. Is that true or false? Do you know that? And Earl Scheib, for you guys that don't know, a long time ago in Los Angeles, he would paint any car for $29.95, $39.95.
No ups and
$49.
no extras.
Yeah.
I can't give you an absolute, but it only made sense to have Goldie do that. It was based on the Earl Scheib concept.
Okay.
But who better to begin hover conversions
I don't buy that
than Goldie the Third.
because principal photography was done. Editing was just about done. There were rolling credits, and if you look, you'll see in Back to the Future 2 that there's no credit for Goldie Wilson III. So the film was basically over when I went and shot that, and I'm just curious how that happened. Think about it. And then my second question is,
Get back to
in 1955, Red Thomas was mayor, right? Is that the same Red on the park bench?
There's a big debate about the red controvershy.
I think
It's a
everybody
red
thinks
scare.
it's him.
Huh?
I think everybody believes
Everybody, that's kind of like urban lore that it's him. I was just curious. All right, I'm done. Do I get a
Just
prize?
say it. It's
Give
him.
the man a prize. There we go. Let's hear it for Don.
Yeah, I feel like somebody's still owed a prize. So
Hey, let me just wrap up here. The question was great about when did you figure out the movie was for you? I've been alive, like I said, I was 13 when I saw it, and I've spent 30 plus years trying to figure out, why do I like this movie so much? And I sat down to write an article for a website about what Back to the Future means to me. And when I finished the 6 or 7 pages, I thought I could probably keep going. So I wrote a book. And in writing the book, I did a lot of soul searching of, it's easy to say, I like that. But it's more difficult to say, why do you like that? It's not hyperbole to say I had a really bad childhood. I grew up in the most insane environment you could imagine. My mother divorced and hooked up with her high school sweetheart, who was a drunk, and brought 12 of his friends to live with us. We lived crazy life. And here's this movie where, whether I realized it or not, Marty's life is okay, but it's not great. And that's why he doesn't see George as a father figure, and why he has sought out Doc Brown as his father figure. And through this weird adventure, Marty comes out with a really strong father figure who can give him advice that he will take. But he also has the added bonus of this great friend in Doc Brown. And I think subliminally, I wanted that. I wanted to change my life. And Back to the Future gave me the courage to, like George, write stories and to let people read them and to get yourself out there. Anybody who has ever written a book knows the hardest part is handing it to somebody and expecting them to read it and not cringing because you hate what you've written. But it takes courage, and the movie teaches you so much about that. I know in the second and third, there's all that nonsense with Marty not being wanted to be called chicken and all that. But it's the first film that really imprinted on me. And it's just that moment of, Mom and Dad, you look great. Mom, you're so thin. You know, it's like they've changed. And like Sam said, that moment, and we all have it, and it takes age 27 or 28 when you realize your parents are people too. Yep. And they had a whole upbringing and a life before you got there, and you're not the center of the friggin' universe, right? And people go, well, how come they don't realize that they named their kid after that guy they met in high school? Because you're not the center of the universe anymore, you know? And if you set fire to the rug, maybe you're just looking for attention, right? So I've always had a connection to this movie. I will continue. My kids, I put it on all the time, right? And I try to collect all this stuff, and it's become more important to me later in life than it did early. Even though early it was really important, I've really found it, you know? And the fact that it won't continue and that it's a solid, completed story just makes me so happy. It truly is the greatest, for me, the greatest film trilogy of all time, of these great characters that I consider to be my friends. And Doc and Marty are my friends, and that's just the way it goes. So thanks to everybody for being on the panel.
Jeff, before we go, I want to give one quick shout out. We've talked a little bit about the DeLorean restoration, but tomorrow, if you want to know more, if you want to see how this thing was done, Joe is going to be doing a panel which will show part of the amazing documentary called Out of Time. So I urge you.
I think the panel's called "Secrets of the DeLorean Time Machine."
Ooh, I didn't realize.
With Steve Concatelli, the great Steve Concatelli.
Yeah. And if you want more Back to the Future, at least we have Rick and Morty. Because, come on.
And you can find my book on Amazon. It's Your Friend in Time: How Back to the Future Changed My Life. It's only $10.88 if you want to look that up on Amazon. 88 cents.
Fine, you can find my book on Amazon too.
There you go.
But it costs a little more than $10.88.
This is the greatest Back to the Future book ever written, right there. Thank you. On the end, Chris Gore, everybody.
Gore!
Don Full of Love, Michael Klastorin, Joe Walser, Sam Macaroni. I'm Jeff Tucker. We'll see you guys in the future.
Thank you, everybody, for sitting here.
Have a great con.
Thank you.